Just Our Real Estate, episode number 333.
If you ever call me and say, hey, we have a deal on this property, I need to know exactly what I have in it, I want to make sure I can give you the right information.
All right, guys, thank you for joining me here on Just Our Real Estate. I am so excited to have you here today. I'm excited to be with you. And man, I just can't tell you how appreciative I am that you have chosen to spend time with me. There's a lot of ways that you can be productive and a lot of things you can do with your time. And the fact that you're choosing to spend part of your day with me means a lot to me, and I definitely do not take it for granted. I am really excited also to bring this episode to you today. It's a good one. I really think you're going to love it. And the name of the game here is to deliver really great information, stuff that you can take action on, stuff that you can apply to your business and really utilize to get you to where you want to be in your real estate business. And I think we've accomplished that today. Before we get started, though, I want to talk about a company that I am super excited about. This is like the greatest find of the 21st century in my business. These guys have been directly responsible for a real spike in my sales and my bottom line. The company I'm talking about is AdWords Nerds, and these guys are awesome. Dan Barrett runs the company, and just a super cool guy. I mean, I think we're almost like, I think we're friends. I hope we're friends. We're getting to be friends. He is helping me just explode my business. These guys are the only fully certified Google partners that work expressly and exclusively with real estate investors like you and me. It's just, they're amazing. They're a proprietary in-house AdWords system, and they work just with real estate guys, you know, like we are. And I can tell you from my business, I'm working with Dan, and I basically have hired him to help me find motivated sellers in my market, right? When people type in sell my house fast or whatever, it's Dan's job to make sure that my website comes up on top. And let me tell you, they do. Month one, it was directly responsible for tens of thousands of dollars worth of business in my company. Month one. They're an A+ rated Better Business Bureau company, and it's just, they're 100% transparent, super client focused. I mean, Dan is like the best guy ever, and I'm telling you, the results are nothing short of amazing. They don't lock you into a long-term contract. It's month to month, so you're free to leave at any time. And exclusively for you guys, my listeners, they will give you an hour of coaching time, which is normally $297. That's what they charge for an hour of consultation. They are going to give you that for free. You can't not do that. Go check them out, guys. It's adwordsnerds.com/Mike, or you can go to juststartrealestate.com. On the right-hand side, click on the AdWords Nerds banner. It'll take you to their site. You'll get that exclusive hour of coaching time and consultation absolutely free. I know once you talk to these guys, you are going to decide, just like I did, you have to have this in your business, guys. People are searching the internet, looking for you more and more every single day. And if you're not there for them, they're going to go to the guy who is hiring Dan to run their AdWords campaign. You don't want to lose out on that business. You certainly don't want to miss out on the opportunity to explode your business like I have. Go check them out, adwordsnerds.com/Mike, or go to Just Start Real Estate, click on the AdWords Nerds banner. They'll take you right there. You are going to thank me. Okay, let's get into the show. All right, guys, thank you for joining me here on Just Start Real Estate. I appreciate you being on. I appreciate you listening, and I'm excited. I've got a good one for you today, and it's a show that is kind of near and dear to my heart, not only because I work with these guys, but also because the amount of sleep that I'm able to get this tax season as opposed to last tax season. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but if you want peace of mind and you want to be able to sleep at night between January 1st and April 15th, these are your people you got to talk to. So real quick, I have on the line Joni and Kirk Yates, and they are the dynamic duo that takes care of the books and bookkeeping for our company, Return on Investments, Mike and I, and they're awesome. Joni has an extensive career in administration, working with Fortune 500 companies like Kmart and Penske, as well as small businesses. Her career has spanned sectors including retail, automotive, the legal field. She's been working at QuickBooks for 7 years and has helped several companies start their QuickBooks from their accounts from the ground up, and she holds a bachelor's degree in counseling psychology from Rochester College, which probably is helpful when she works with us. Kirk, on the other hand, Kirk's worked for Fortune 500 companies like Napa, Penske, Quicken Loans, as well as runs small businesses of his own. His expertise includes sales management, the automotive aftermarket, mortgages, and banking. He first worked with QuickBooks in 2001, and prior to that, worked with Peachtree accounting software. Kirk is skilled in P&L and financial projections, and he holds a bachelor's degree in advertising from Bradley University and an MBA from Walsh College. They both live here in Michigan, kind of near me in Rochester Hills with their 2 children, and together they have owned rental properties as well and know all too well the ups and downs that we all experience as investors and specifically landlords. So welcome to the show, guys. I appreciate you taking the time. This is a long time in coming, and it's awesome. It's like I've held you as my little secret and not shared you with the world until now. So everyone's getting a big treat. I'm sharing them with the world. How's it going, guys?
Hi, Mike. Thanks for having us.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having us on. It's great.
No, I really appreciate it. Like I said, I mean, I've told people this for the last, about a year now that we've been working together, that we have hired several people in our company and we've had to let people go, and we've hired more people, and we've had all this kind of, change up in our company as we grow. But still to this date, my favorite hire is you guys doing my books, because I did the books previous years, and last year around this time, I was having basically anxiety fits, and I wasn't sleeping well, and it was a big mess. And we'll get into that a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, still far and away the favorite people that I work with on a daily basis. So thanks for that. Appreciate it. So let's talk about this a little bit. We went through your background. Like I said, last year at this time, I was trying to work through my books for 2015. And if anyone knows me, I don't need to say much more, but I'm not super detailed with accounting for specifically, but basically record keeping in general, I'm not super great at. So trying to sift through and make sense of what I was doing was nuts. And I reached out to someone that I knew locally. It was actually the CPA I was working with, and said, "Hey, do you know someone who can do my books? Because I'm just a mess. I need someone who could help me going forward. Like, I'll deal with last year. That's sort of a Pandora's box that I don't really want to pay someone to go through. But going forward, do you know anybody who could help me get my books straightened out for this year so I don't ever go through this again?" And he's like, "Yeah, I know somebody who's really great." And he gave me their number and called them, met with them, sat down, kind of explained what I did. There was a lot of head nodding and yeah, I get that. Yep, we can totally do that. Yep, no problem. Yep, we got it. And I said, great. These guys really seem to understand what I'm doing, and they seem to get it. So I turned everything over to them. And in my brain, because I know the complexity of real estate in the investing world, and specifically wholesaling and all the transactions and all the in and out of money, so I sort of watched what was happening, and I could go into my QuickBooks account that was set up for me and look at these transactions and how they're being classified. And bear in mind, I know nothing about bookkeeping. Nothing. I still know nothing about bookkeeping, but I know when things are not being allocated to the right house or to the right account. And I was watching, and it's like I would give them feedback like, "Hey, I don't think you're on top of all that." I mean, I'm not trying to sound harsh or like I know more than I do, but I'm seeing things are kind of look like they're slipping through the cracks, and they're like, no, we got it. We go back at the end of every month and we reconcile, and it's no problem. I was like, well, I know, but I'm spending money and no one's asked me now for over a month what I spent this money on, and I spent it, and nobody's asking me. So I'm guessing you either aren't doing anything with it or you're making an assumption. So after, about a month and a half of back and forth and me telling them, I don't think you're really doing it right, and them telling me 100% we got this, right? I finally said, okay, enough. I can see things aren't being done. I've got to move on. So we let them go. And in the meantime, I decided, talking to Mike Cowper, my business partner, and said, we need to find somebody who's more dedicated to our books and not so spread out over different industries and different disciplines, and someone who's really going to be on it like every day, basically. Like when we're spending money, like if more than a day goes by or a couple of days where they're not asking, hey, what was this money for? First of all, I'm going to forget. right? Joni, I know you know that. So I'm going to forget, and worse, you're not going to ask me, and it's going to slip through the cracks. So long story short, held this extensive interview process where I'm interviewing someone. I might as well have been interviewing someone about how to build a space shuttle, because I don't know how to do books and I don't know how to build a space shuttle. And me interviewing someone to figure out if they know what they're doing is kind of a joke. But went through a lot of people and really got a great feel for Joni, and she came on and started doing our books. And I'll let you guys talk about that a little bit. But when you first came on and started helping out, did you feel like, oh, this is going to be no big deal, or were you like, holy crap, what are they doing? Like, what was the experience on your end?
Well, for me, it was a lot like kind of starting from scratch, because working in real estate, you have to know how to read a settlement statement. You have to be able to know where to allocate the money. So there were transactions that, say you spent $65,300 on a property, they put everything to a property and didn't break out the settlement costs, the property taxes, any commissions. And so it was kind of, I had to jump in and go back and fix that. And it was just very different than, it's not typical bookkeeping.
Yeah. And you've dealt with other companies, obviously, and you see how they have to do their books. Is it significantly different? Is it kind of so, like, how I know bookkeeping, the principles, they have to be consistent across different companies, but the actual process of kind of and again, I'm trying to not sound stupid, but I sort of am when it comes to books. Is it very, very different on an actual like day-to-day basis of how these have to be maintained than other companies?
Yes, absolutely. I think a lot of people make the mistake. The biggest pitfall is they think that they can, maybe just go from their checkbook or make a spreadsheet or keep some receipts, and that's how they're going to do their bookkeeping. But when you're in real estate, you're never going to know what your bottom line is, what you have into a property, if you don't have your bookkeeping correct. So yeah, it's much different than any other company.
Yeah, I've said this before. The real estate investor just doesn't fit into any cookie cutter anything, and especially with bookkeeping. Not that it's rocket science, but it is different. You start putting on hard money loans and guaranteed interest and interest only, and then you might have a partner on one property, but not that partner on other properties. And understanding the real estate transaction world as we've come to know it, I think really, really does make a difference. Otherwise, bookkeeping is, a lot of the expenses it's pretty much the same from industry to industry. It's the sales and it's how the deals are structured that I think makes the real estate investing more complicated.
Yeah. And I will say this too, like from day one, you guys were like on our books, like exactly what I was hoping for. I was getting, you were on it, like you were engaged, you were obviously interested, and you were totally on it. But over the first, I would say 6 months for sure, there was a lot of like back and forth, like, hey, like, what is this? Or like, hey, how are we doing this? Like, I feel like there was a significant period, even though you totally were on it, of still like getting yourself up to speed. Like you said, Kirk, getting yourself up to speed with how our industry runs. And like you said, we're doing properties where some of them we're buying with our money, some of them we're buying with investor funds. Some of them we have funds that we hold on to unsecured that investors have given us for the year that we're using that way. Some of them we're assigning because we're wholesalers, so there's like no money in terms of buying the house. So these settlement statements that you're talking about from the title company are different, like property to property. And I know, because just having worked together with you guys, it wasn't like day one, even though you were on it and totally knew what you were doing, it wasn't like there weren't, a lot of questions and things that you had to like sort of figure out. And then Mike and I are constantly throwing, we need, can you give us this report? Can you show us this? Like how, and then you're educating us on the other side, right? So we're educating you about real estate, but you're sort of educating us about books and how certain things need to be done. Because at the end of the day, like you can tell your bookkeeper to do anything you want, but if it doesn't translate into how you have to report out for taxes, it's sort of pointless, right? I mean, that's sort of the goal. Like, you want to know where you are from a P&L standpoint. You want to know where you are from a cash flow standpoint. And that's great. But if what you're doing isn't going to be useful to the CPA at the end of the year, then you've got a problem. So it's this constant like, hey, this is what we need to know about our business versus this is what we have to maintain in order to be keeping your books properly for tax purposes. And I've never met an investor in my life, a real estate investor, that understood or enjoyed on any level the tax process and understands tax, and much less anyone who understands or enjoys how to keep their books. Most people are doing it. If they're doing it on a spreadsheet, they're a million miles ahead of most real estate investors that I know. I didn't have everything on a spreadsheet. Like, I tried, but it was just a mess, right? So yeah, I don't know. I went kind of a long way with that, but I think there was a lot of back and forth learning. And Mike and I are the farthest from someone who wants to learn bookkeeping, but it was kind of necessary because we're asking questions that we sort of need to understand what you're doing for us. But then on the flip side, just grabbing someone who knows QuickBooks and going, yeah, you'll work. You can totally get this. That's not true, right? I mean, this is a very specialized section of bookkeeping. Yeah. Yeah,
it really is, especially with, as you said, the different ways that a real estate investor can have deals, whether it's wholesale, whether they're flipping it and they have repair expenses, whether they have partners, different ways for loans to work and get your money. You know, I've been in banking and mortgaging for 10 or 12 years before we met, and I was even amazed by how many different ways you guys can put together a deal, things that I had never seen before. So it was pretty eye-opening for us as well.
Yeah, that's funny too, because Mike and I pride ourselves on being some of the least creative real estate investors out there. We kind of like, we try to keep it simple, and even trying to keep it simple, it's insanely complex from a record keeping and bookkeeping standpoint. So I feel kind of bad because, Mike and I are just doing whatever we have to do to grow our business. And then you guys are on the other end trying to like make sense of some of this. So I commend you. We're not the easiest people to like follow what we're doing, but that's just the way it is, right? In real estate, we always try to, everyone's preaching creative deals and bringing partners in and how things are split and how things are funded. And there's just an awful lot that goes into it. And no one does it. No two people do it exactly the same. So thinking that you can just pick up the yellow pages, which shows my age, or just get on Google and look for, hey, just somebody who has, experience with QuickBooks and plugging them in. I've tried it. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work that way. Somebody has to have had that ground level training or had to be immersed in this world, I think, for it to make any kind of sense. Because if you're grabbing the bookkeeper who's doing your plumbers, your baker and your candlestick makers books for them, it's not going to be as easy when they come and try to do your books. It just, like I said, I've done it. I know for a fact what I'm talking about in this area. You really need to make sure that if you have a bookkeeper, then they're super, engaged in what you're doing and you're really walking them through it, or you're bringing someone in who has a specialization with books. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Yeah. And in my past in bookkeeping, I've had clients where it has been very straightforward, where you are putting in just receipts and it's not that complicated, but just real estate is a whole different giant of its own. And, like Kirk said, you just have to understand all the different type of deals that you do in having many deals going at once and being able to keep track of those in your record keeping and just staying on top of them.
Yeah, we've had, as we've grown and now have bulk of our clients are real estate investors, it is interesting to see even from one real estate investor to another that there are different ways that they handle their business and different ways that are important to them. But as we learn yet a new creative way to structure a deal from one client, that helps us because we'll probably see that again with other clients. And we really do understand how to do that. We try to work with our clients' accountants to know that we are doing the bookkeeping that is in accordance with how they want to do your taxes, which is extremely important if you're going to capitalize expenses or not. We don't have to get into the details of bookkeeping, which would put your audience to sleep. But we can talk about there are some specific things that are important to real estate investors and their accountants, and we make sure that we follow those guidelines.
Let's talk a little bit about, because I try to be real transparent, and you guys can be completely honest. We didn't talk about this beforehand, but be totally honest. What are some of the things that Mike and I did specifically in our business that was maybe, how do we make it hard on you, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, what are we doing that you go, oh boy, or like, especially in the beginning, maybe not so much now because we're sort of on the same page, but like, for example, let me just throw this out. I don't want to lead the witness here, but like, just going to Home Depot, swiping a card and moving on, right? Like, we kind of early on tried to establish some ground rules that I consistently break, but where it's like, most investors are like just spending money, and it's like trying to help your bookkeeper understand, thinking they're just going to know which property that's against. So those kind of things, like where have we struggled?
Right. Well, when you have a receipt in real estate world, we want to know what property that goes to. So you have a lot of properties going, and every time there's an expense, we need to know what class that goes to, as we call it. Yeah, that's a biggie, to make sure that any expense you're allocating to the correct property. As you know, we provide you with what we call our bottom line report. And this breaks out the property and shows you what you've spent on that property, what you've put into it, what you've spent. So if you get a deal on that, if you get an offer, you're going to know exactly what you need to make on it. So if we are missing expenses or they're not there, then you're not getting accurate information.
Yeah, and that was one of the things I think that we found early on, and I can't remember if we had it set up right or wrong, but that you classify all of our properties into classes, which kind of like these silos that keep the expenses for that particular property with the property it belongs to. So like you said, you give us a bottom line report that basically tells us what we made or lost and hopefully made on all the properties that we have, which if you just throw that all into a big soup at the end of the day, you don't know where you made money, where you lost money. And I know a lot of investors that forget not knowing if they made or lost money on a particular deal. They're not positive if they're making money or losing money. The only way they even can judge is there money in the bank? Yes, then I made money. But you know as well as I do how scary that is, because sometimes there's money out there that you haven't realized yet. And sometimes there's expenses that are coming up that if you're not paying attention and you're just looking at what's in the bank, you can sort of burn yourself. And I'm sure there's investors that are listening right now going, yeah, totally. I totally know how that is, because it was that way. Years ago for me, I just used the bank account. I didn't know if I was really making money or not. So there's a lot of cool things that you can take advantage of when there is somebody who's actually watching your books. There are reports and things that can be provided to you that sort of break down your business and educate you about where the money's going, where the money's coming in from, and where the money is going out to. Where is your biggest expenses and where are those happening on a month-by-month basis? So you can adjust if needed and understand where things are going wrong, if they're going wrong, and get to the bottom of that before the end of the year. The place, you don't want to do your bookkeeping in December, right? I mean, you want to do your bookkeeping starting January 1st and consistently throughout the year. How often would you say that I don't know if the word reconcile is right because you don't let too much time go by, but how often are you in your clients' accounts and making sure that you understand the transactions?
Daily, really. I really try and stay on top of them, as much as we can, and really make sure that every expense is going where it should be going. Because if you ever call me and say, hey, we have a deal on this property, I need to know exactly what I have in it, I want to make sure I can give you the right information.
Right. And that's super helpful, especially for house flippers, right? Everyone who's flipped houses out there knows when you put this on the MLS, you start getting offers. If you've not kept close track of your costs and your expenses, you're not going to know exactly what your profits are. So when someone starts negotiating prices with you and says, hey, I know you're asking $150,000, we got an offer for $140,000. well, that's a big drop. But if you don't know exactly what you've spent to that point, including, insurance and taxes and all this stuff, utilities, you really don't know what profit margin you're negotiating from. You don't know where you are in that negotiation. So, little things like that a lot of investors take for granted. They just go, well, I was planning on making 20,000. I marked the property down by 5,000. I probably made somewhere between 10 and 15, right? Well, that's fine if you're going to do one, but what if you're doing 100 of those? Like, you don't want to not know, give or take $5,000, where you are on 100 properties. That's a big problem. So we tend to gloss over this part because we don't understand it, we're afraid of it, and we don't like it. So we try to just focus on, if I just create more revenue, the books will be whatever. They'll be what they are. I don't have to worry about it because I'll just make so much money, it won't matter at the end of the day. Which is insanely reckless, because the more money you make in this business, the more important it becomes to have accurate bookkeeping. If you're doing one deal a year, go for it. Put your receipts in a shoebox and use a spreadsheet and call it a day. But if you're trying to scale your business, right? If you're trying to go from one deal a year to one deal a month to one deal a week, now we're talking about a situation where your business is growing. And if you don't keep accurate books, you can't out-earn problems that bad bookkeeping will create. And I'm going to coin that because that was actually, I'm very impressed with that statement. You can't you can't out-earn the problem, right? So it's ignorant and it's really reckless to try to out-earn the problem. So all this being said, right, we've worked with each other now for about a year, maybe a little over a year. I can't remember exactly, but about a year. We've had hours of conversations about us explaining to you guys exactly how we're putting deals together, how we're structuring things, how and why certain money's going in or needs to go out. Everything from investors, private investors, to lines of credit that we utilize, to using the company money for things. And we've spent all of this, basically it's been an education for the last year, both directions about how this works, right? So we've decided, Mike and I have gotten together with Kirk and Joni and said, hey, listen, we know that this is like a lifesaver for us. It's tremendously helpful. Every real estate investor on the planet who's doing more than 1 or 2 deals a year needs accurate bookkeeping from a company that understands what we do as investors. And it's not the same as a plumber. It's not the same as a lawyer. It's just not. And so we decided to create this company and to create this service that works specifically and stays in the real estate niche and caters to real estate investors. And I can tell you, you can go out and try to find your own bookkeeper, and you can spend a year intensely training and coaching them up on how our business works. And if you find a really, really good one, that may work out for you. If you don't find a good one, you may have wasted a year trying to explain something to somebody who's not getting it, or they're too distracted by other industries and how they keep books for them, and they just can't get that through. Or you can find a company like theirs that only works with real estate investors. And just real quick, I just want to say it. If you're like, okay, get to it, Mike. What do I do? So if you go online to REI, that's the letter R, the letter E, the letter I, booksonline.com. So rebooksonline.com. Go to that website. You can see a little video that kind of explains what we do, and then the pricing structure and the ways that Joni and Kirk can not only keep your books, but provide different reports and things that will help you run your company, right? It's one thing to keep books. It's another thing to guide your company down the right road. So we've created this service specifically for real estate investors. And, it's sort of like the hair club for men. I'm not only one of the owners, I'm also a client. It's true, right? I'm absolutely telling you that there's no way in this world I could say, to Kirk and Joni, it's been fun, but I'm going to move on to somebody else and just plug someone in and have them pick up, even though everything's set up perfectly, they would not be able to just pick up and start doing it. Somebody needs to get it set up properly, and somebody needs to maintain that who understands what we do. And that's exactly what Kirk and Joni are offering, and what we're offering to you as investors. Someone who understands this, someone who's essentially been broken in with Mike and I, and we've stressed them out to the point that, I don't think you can do much to stress them out. Not that I'm trying to dare someone to stress you guys out, but that's really the case, right? And their service is insanely affordable. I work with investors from around the country, and I know what people pay their bookkeepers in other states. I mean, I'm in Michigan, we're in Michigan, but I know what in other states people are paying their bookkeepers, and it's a small fortune. So working with Kirk and Joni is probably not only going to be a huge cost savings from working with someone else, but I can tell you for a fact, if you hand your CPA a shoebox with 1,000 receipts and say, here you go, your CPA is going to charge you way more than any bookkeeper to organize that, get it straightened out, and fix everything, right? So right now, for people who listen to this podcast, people who are listeners of mine, if you go to the website at reibooksonline.com and reach out to Kirk and Joni, tell them that you heard about them on this podcast, okay? Say, hey, I heard about this on the Just Start Real Estate podcast. They will catch your books up and get you set up for the calendar year 2017. So now we've got a few months into it. They'll get you totally caught up and set up and books ready to roll for $350, which is insanely low because most people within 2 months have already kind of messed up their books pretty bad. So they're willing to jump in and do that. $350, get caught up and get going in the right direction this year so that you're prepared to not only hand over something coherent to your CPA, but you're also able to run your business like a business. You know what's coming in, what's going out. You can get reports, that P&Ls and balance sheet that show you where you are as a business and a real estate investor. And guys, I know as a real estate investor, I just want it done for me. I don't want to try to figure it out. I want to pay someone. Please do this right. Give me the reports I need so that I can intelligently run my business and grow it going forward, and just handle it, because that's not what we get excited about as real estate investors. The books part of it is not why we get into real estate investing, right? So let a professional, let someone who really understands that side of it do it. And I can't recommend or emphatically tell you that Kirk and Joni are the best in the country that I've ever seen. And I've presented their business and their service to other investors from all around the country. And not only can they not believe how inexpensive it is, they can't believe the amount of detail and the attention to detail and the understanding of the industry that they have. So I'm telling you, this is like something you really shouldn't wait, because this offer is for a limited time. They are not going to catch your books up and get you straightened out in July for $350. They can't. You will have done too much damage to your own books. So right now we're in the month of, what is this, February, March. We're in the month of March. So I will say anybody within the month of March. Okay, is that fair, you guys? Is that okay? Is that good?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, cool. I know you were nodding, but they can't see you nod. So within the month of March, if you read 2017, right? I'm going to timestamp this. It's the 10th, right? This will go out. Now, I apologize for everyone listening, because this is not going to go out on the 10th. Can we say by April 4th? By April 4th, you have to reach out to them by April 4th to get this consultation for $350. 2 weeks seems short, right? But if you haven't pulled the trigger in 3 weeks, then you're not, you deserve to be buried under your own tax problem. So, but we'll say April 4th, right? April 4th, 2017 is a cutoff. If you do it by then, $350, catch yourself up for the year and utilize the best bookkeeping duo this country has ever seen. I don't know if I'm overstating it, but I don't think I am, guys. Any other comments from you guys, or any other things? Like, I don't want to oversell or overstate the seriousness of getting this done right, but what are the implications if they don't? Like what happens to companies like mine if they just let them run amok?
Well, having proper books, having proper accounting is all part of running your business. And I'm a firm believer that if you aren't running your business, you are probably going out of business. As I say, on the installment plan, just every month, your business is getting further and further away from you. Bookkeeping is just one piece of that. But for example, we had a client last week ask us if we could use the information we have and create a special report so he could track his marketing. Actually, yes, we already have the information. So we worked it out with him so that we're going to be able to give him a report that's really just a different piece of the bookkeeping, the P&L. But then he has something to know exactly what he spent on advertising and marketing and where, and then he can use that for his own purposes to see if that is money well spent. That's the kind of stuff we can do. Probably other bookkeepers wouldn't do that.
That's awesome. And that is a fact. You will not get other bookkeepers to do that, at least in my experience, because I tried that kind of stuff before I ultimately walked away from that situation. And yeah, it just wasn't happening. I was being crammed into just basically this prepackaged sort of a thing. And that's great, man. Geez, don't give me ideas, right? We're going to have more reports that we ask you guys to put out. But that's true, and that's awesome, and that's a good point. If you're not keeping track of this, right? I mean, if you're not, and again, it's not just the books, but man, I can't even tell you, like, seriously, I joke about it, but I'm like, I laugh, and people think I'm kidding. I was having a hard time sleeping a year ago because I knew that our books were completely out of whack, and it's just insane to do that when there are people who are trained in this, and then to find people who are trained to do books. Not so hard. To find people who are trained to do books for real estate investors specifically, next to impossible. So I can't stress enough, guys. Go to reibooksonline.com. Reach out to Kirk and Joni before April 4th to get that special offer. And it is a special offer. This is not being offered to anybody else. $350 to get your books not only caught up and organized, they'll also set up your whole QuickBooks system. So going forward, they're able to keep track of everything, do everything the way it's supposed to be done. So at the end of the year, you are not paying a CPA to do this for you, which you do not want to do. So that is really the big takeaway here, guys. Is anything else that you want to share? Any other thoughts that before we go?
Well, I just want to stress that the special permit, when you go to our website, you're going to see we have 3 different pricing packages. It really depends on how big your business is. Regardless of the package that you choose moving forward, you're still only going to pay $350 for us to get you caught up for the full year 2017. So we think it's a great bargain. Our whole goal is to have more and more real estate investor clients. We love the industry. We love working with the real estate investors and getting to know them as people and their businesses and even in some cases their families. And we just, if we can give a little bit of discount to help somebody come on board, that's great. It's good business for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great point, because if you're already running a really large real estate investing company with a lot of transactions and a lot of houses going in and out, then you're right. There's different packages, and obviously as your business scales and as your business becomes more and more complicated, the cost goes up a little bit, but the cost to get them all straightened out for this year and get going forward is the same for everybody. So that's huge, actually. It's a really good point. I'm glad you said that. And also, I know you guys have shared this with me, so I'm gonna share with everybody else. If you reach out to Kirk and Joni and they start doing your books and they start asking you questions like, how do you want this set up, or like how do you do this? You can just tell them, do it like Mike and Mike does, like whatever they do, just do that. Because we're flipping, we're wholesaling, we have rentals, so they're definitely well versed and experienced in most phases of real estate investing. So you can make it easy on yourself and go whatever Mike and Mike are doing, just do it like that, and I'll be good. So that's a good little shortcut for you, and makes their life, I'm sure, interesting when they kind of try to set up like we do. But yeah, guys, listen, I appreciate you being on. I really appreciate you sharing and taking the time to share the information. Like I said, bookkeeping is not the reason why most investors get into real estate, because they're like, I just can't wait to get into the bookkeeping side of it. So don't get into the bookkeeping side of it. Stay out of it. It's really, if it's not your expertise, you shouldn't do it. Pay someone to do it. It does not cost a lot, and relatively speaking, for the time you're saving, for the sanity, and compared to what you're going to pay a CPA if you force that person to do it at the end of the year, it's insanely affordable, and it's just another component of running a business, right? And not running around and having this real estate hobby that a lot of people have, but actually running an actual business. So jump on there, reibooksonline.com. If you want, if you forget and you just know how to get a hold of me, you can always go to juststartrealestate.com and reach out to me, and I can direct you toward them if you forget. But go on, check them out. The service they're providing and the deal they're giving you to get set up it's just untouchable. No one else can do that for you. I guarantee it. So go out and reach out and talk to them, guys. It's been great having you on. Again, I appreciate your time and thanks. Hey, I don't say it enough. Thanks for being so awesome and helping us out and doing our books, because we would be a complete mess and I would be in a corner crying somewhere if I didn't have you. So I can't say that about anybody else that works with us. So thanks again, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep. Bye-bye. All right, that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I think you did. I know that I really enjoyed presenting it to you, and I really enjoyed giving you this content, and hopefully it's something that you can take something from, right? That's the whole idea here. If you can take one concept, one idea, one strategy, one thing that you heard and apply it to your business to make it better, then I will consider what I've done here a success. Now, to that end, I do want to talk to you for a moment. I've kind of alluded to it in this episode and past episodes. I can tell you this, guys. I used to be a little bit anti-coaching, a little bit anti-education. And part of it's because there's a lot of really kind of cheesy educators out there that really don't deliver any real great material or advice or direction. And maybe they haven't even been doing real estate in a number of years, right? They're just sort of like recycling techniques that they were been talking about for decades. But I will tell you, I have completely changed my philosophy. It wasn't that I didn't think education was important, but I just thought, I can do it without it. I don't need anybody's help. I can figure it out on my own. And I can tell you, after about 4 or 5 years of struggling and trying to figure things out and just not being able to do that, once I decided to invest my time and my money in education, everything changed for me. And I'm telling you, everything changed for me. The business skyrocketed, right? They talk about the hockey stick effect, right? When you're looking at a graph and it's like it goes up like a hockey stick. That's exactly what my business did. And it made me understand fully and finally that what I was lacking in my business is education. And guys, I really want to be there for you when it comes to education. Hopefully this podcast is delivering some good education to you, but sometimes you need a little bit more. Sometimes you need a little bit more direct, coaching and someone to kind of come in and look at your business specifically and not give you generalities or just kind of general concepts, which let's face it, free information has to be sort of general because we're not working one-on-one, right? So this podcast, I can't give everybody listening specific guidance on their business on the podcast because it just wouldn't apply to everyone necessarily, right? So what I would like to propose and what I'd like to make available is coaching, one-on-one coaching for you, right? That may take on various forms and you may be in different